10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
This is RFD Today, a daily look at the key topics impacting rural Illinois. If you live in Illinois, we examine the issues impacting you, your income, and your community. Here's your host for today's program, DeLaw Shonke.
Hey, good Friday to you, Illinois. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 17th. Sure hope you missed the rain, or worse. My goodness, the pictures I saw up around Sandwich around noon yesterday. Certainly some concerns up there. Saw also video southern Vermilion County of hail. You know how hard it is to track severe weather in Sandwich, Illinois? If you type Sandwich, it's amazing how many people are tweeting about eating sandwiches at any particular time. That was just the goofiest thing. But an inch in Danforth, an inch one in Danforth, that's just outside of Watseka, Moline, 9700ths, Rockford, a little more than a half. Peoria, only 4/100ths of an inch, and a lot of areas around there missed. And even St. Louis seemed like it missed. Far southern, as you get toward like Cape Girardeau and even down around Paducah, seemed like it missed at least this time, but more rain is in the forecast over the weekend into early next week. By the way, those that missed, and that means a lot of field work, so keep in mind a lot of vehicles out there. And if you're the person behind the tractor with either the planter or some sort of field cultivator, don't get right up next to them, because now you can't see. So how are you going to pass and keep traffic moving if you can't see what's going on? This is not difficult, folks, so give them room and give them time, and we'll all get where we need to go, and we can all be nice and calm about it at the same time. Jack Titchener will be on the program today. 2 weeks to go, and now less than 2 weeks to go, the state legislature, and we will talk about a number of things. Progressive income tax proposals, recreational marijuana, sports betting, capital bill. That's not the full list, but that's probably about all the time we'll have to get through on a day like this. And then Sabrina Berkowitz, also our social media specialist, will be by later in the program. Stay tuned. This is RFD Today.
It can begin with an email, a phone call, a flyer in the mail, or perhaps a misleading website. Loan modification scams. They come in all shapes and sizes and under different names. Loan rescue firms, counseling services, mortgage consultants, sometimes posing as a legitimate mortgage company willing to help you modify your loan and get caught up with your payments. But beware, these are highly trained con artists looking to steal your home. They often know who you are, where you live, and because it's public record, know if you are on the brink of foreclosure. You're not alone, however. The National Crime Prevention Council and U.S. Department of Justice have partnered to help homeowners identify and steer clear of these scam artists.
McGruff the Crime Dog here. Protect your home and safeguard your finances. It only takes a little time to become informed. Start by finding a free legitimate housing counselor today.
Take the first step. Visit www.ncpc.org/mortgage-fraud. That's ncpc.org/mortgage-fraud. This message is from the National Crime Prevention Council and U.S. Department of Justice.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards Loyalty Program with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/Farm Bureau.
When it comes to social media, Sabrina Berkowitz connects rural routes for you. Sabrina covers a broad range of ag topics, so Farm Bureau members are the first to know about key issues. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up with a grain and livestock farm in my extended family, and today I really enjoy helping people learn how to use social media to advocate for agriculture.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Welcome back to RFD Today on a Friday. I'm DeLaw Shonke. Our regular guest, talking State House stuff, is Jack Tichenor, host of Illinois Lawmakers. Jack, how are you, and where are you today?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm in beautiful downtown Springfield, about a block north of the Capitol, getting ready to head over there in a little bit, see what's going on. And we're also here, in addition to doing our regular Illinois Lawmakers program, we're here to videotape. Well, actually, we don't videotape anything anymore. We put it on camera cards. We're going to record the Lincoln Academy of Illinois' big convocation and investiture of new laureates. It's like the Nobel Prize for Distinguished Illinoisans. They're doing that tomorrow evening in the House of Representatives chambers. And my home TV station, WSIU, produces an annual PBS special on that. And so we'll have staff up here and students from the SIU Carbondale Department of Radio, Television, and Digital Media running the cameras on that. It's a great experience for them. So we're doing a lot of different stuff today.
That sounds like really good hands-on experience.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one of the hallmarks of our department. Students can come in as freshmen and actually start working on video switchers and state-of-the-art cameras and all kinds of broadcasting equipment. So it's a great program. So there's my shameless self-promotion.
There you go. Hey, that's all right. That's all right. Now, I asked this question to Kevin Simlow last week, and we can certainly ask it today. What is the mood? Is the mood like, we've got a couple of weeks? Or is the mood more like, hey, we've only got a couple of weeks?
It depends. It depends on who you ask. I've been coming here since 1990 or so, and 2 weeks out, there is some pressure to get stuff done, but things can change in a matter of hours on a critical issue here at the Capitol. So despite the fact you've got a number of these big issues kind of in a holding pattern, one or two of them can come in and land at any time, and you can see action start to move pretty quickly. But having said that, there's a lot of stuff out there. You mentioned the graduated income tax proposal, recreational marijuana, sports betting, capital bill. All of those are big issues. A capital bill only comes along like once every 10 years or so, even though it's actually needed more often than that. So any one of these things would be a huge deal. But now you've got 5 or 6 of them lined up. So it'll be fascinating. The difference in the chemistry here is this year, the Democrats basically hold supermajorities, more than supermajorities in both the House and the Senate, and they've got a Democratic governor they're working with, and they're in alignment on most of these things. Now, there are some areas where they depart, and they're still doing some negotiating on. But overall, I think there's a consensus, there's a feeling. I think a feeling is probably a better way to put it, that a lot of this can be knocked out before May 31st, and there's a lot of folks out there in the legislature who have kids who are graduating or grandkids who are going through graduation ceremonies at the end of the month, and they want to be home for that, in addition to doing the people's work.
If, because of that supermajority, if things just went to a vote, or could that be a scenario where you say, well, okay, we're going to put your feet to the fire now, and we'll see how this goes? Or does there really have to be still some massaging here, or, negotiating some middle ground to be made before you're confident before putting this thing up in the chamber?
Oh, I think it's the latter. There's a lot of details here and there in all of these bills that still have to. You said massage. That's a pretty good word for it. Oh, they still have to be worked through. There are differences of opinion even on the Democratic side of the thing. And let's not forget, there's a lot of interest on the part of Republicans in particular on this capital bill, because if you look at the way the state of Illinois, it's a pretty red map. If you look at rural Illinois, so those are Republican districts, they have a lot of roads, railroads, airports, all kinds of transportation infrastructure. They want to be in on that bill, as the capital bill as well. There's also interest on the Republican side of the aisle on some of the aspects of the recreational marijuana bill. So there's a lot of discussions taking place, but things can happen pretty quickly. We've seen that before around here.
Okay. Just with a couple of minutes here, and I'm sure we can pick it up afterward as well. So with the income tax, because the Senate passed its version, and so what's the part in the House? Is it the brackets, or what do you think with the House version?
Well, I think there's pretty solid support to actually put the thing on the ballot in November of next year. I think you've got a lot of support to do that. Now, they've got 74 votes, the Democrats do in the House. That's 3 more than a 71-vote supermajority. There's a question, though, as to will they have, a total of 74? Well, there's a couple of lawmakers who are saying, well, we like the idea of the graduated income tax, but because our property taxes are so high, we really need to see more of a move toward some serious property tax relief before we can back the graduated income tax. That said, I still think the actual language of putting a graduated income tax on before voters next year, that's probably got a very good chance of passing. Now, you mentioned the brackets. Well, that's going to be a little bit more difficult because now you're getting into the actual moving parts of the thing. So that might take a little more time to do. But the main thing is I think the graduated income tax is probably fairly close to being a reality as far as putting it on the ballot next year.
Okay.
There's a school of thought that...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we're up against the break. How about we just stop right there, and we'll pick that up right after the break here. And we'll talk about a number of other things as well, including the Capitol bill, because talk about moving parts. Surely there are a lot of moving parts of that as well. Jack Tichenor is host of Illinois Lawmakers, normally in Southern Illinois, today in Springfield. We'll catch up with him in just a second here on RFD Today.
When it comes to our members, Chris Magnuson connects rural routes for you. Chris leads Illinois Farm Bureau's efforts to provide valuable information to our members. He has spent 2 decades with IFB. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a farm with corn, soybeans, and Christmas trees. I've been in ag communication for 3 decades now. My greatest satisfaction has always remained the same, to serve our members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Attention, Illinois farmers. You won't want to miss this field day at SIU Carbondale University Farms. It's your chance to hear from industry experts about ongoing research and how it will benefit your farm. Join us on June 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with free lunch included. This is a joint effort of the SIU College of Agricultural Sciences, Illinois Nutrient Research and Education Council, and Illinois Farm Bureau. You must pre-register at IllinoisNREC.org and click on upcoming events.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders. Support us at 4h.org.
I was visiting my 75-year-old aunt the other day when her phone rang.
Hello? It's you again.
She seemed nervous.
Well, I don't think I need any more life insurance.
The caller was doing a great job keeping my aunt on the line.
Okay, so you need my credit card number?
My aunt went to get her purse, so I decided that I would ask a few questions. Well, as soon as I introduced myself, the caller hung up.
McGruff, the crime dog here. Recognizing the signs of fraud can be difficult for older people. Often they're very trusting and consider it impolite to hang up. The National Crime Prevention Council wants to educate seniors so that these scams can be reported to local law enforcement agencies.
Financial fraud can include identity theft, fake check and wire transfer scams, investment and credit card fraud, and online charitable solicitations. Unfortunately, only 1 in 5 of these crimes are reported. To learn more, go to ncpc.org/seniors. That's ncpc.org/seniors. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Department of Justice.
Many medicines used to treat colds and flu contain acetaminophen. a pain reliever and fever reducer found in hundreds of over-the-counter and prescription medicines. But taking too much or more than one medication containing acetaminophen per day can damage your liver. So always read the label and don't take acetaminophen if you drink 3 or more alcoholic drinks every day. To learn more, visit fda.gov/OTC pain info. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Food and Drug Administration.
All right, welcome back to RFD Today on a Friday. I'm DeLoss Yonke with Jack Titchener, host of Illinois Lawmakers, talking about the proposal for the graduated income tax. If you wouldn't mind picking up where we left off there.
Sure. Well, it was interesting. I was on our Capitol View PBS show that originates at our WSEC station in Springfield. I was on there with Bruce Rushton of the Illinois Times and Charlie Wheeler, the longtime head of the Public Affairs reporting program, a famed Chicago Sun-Times newspaper reporter, who's actually retiring this year, by the way, after doing a terrific job with that program. We were talking about the graduated income tax. It was interesting. There was a question raised: does it actually have to happen before May 31st of this year? And Charlie's a pretty sharp guy when it comes to the Illinois Constitution, and he indicated that technically it doesn't have to be. It has to be passed 6 months before the first Tuesday in November of 2020. So that bill would be on the amendment would be on the ballot in November of 2020. So there's a 6-month window, though, for it to be there. So it actually has to be passed no later than roughly the first week of May of next year. However, that said, I think that the folks who are pushing this really want to have that thing across the finish line here before the end of this May. You don't want any more time for opposition to build on that, on any lawmakers who might be on the fence about whether or not they want to be for this thing. So I think you're probably going to see that happen before the end of this May without too much doubt. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting wrinkle we got into yesterday on that.
All this is to put something on the ballot in 2020 for a constitutional amendment. So does the actual word for word, does that have to be determined now as well? Like, what specifically is the question that would arrive on the ballot?
That's got to be settled now, and I think they've pretty much got that nailed down at this point. It will be roughly what came over. My guess would be it'd be fairly close to what the general language that came over from the Senate a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and that doesn't have to be elaborate. That just has to be enough to make for a question.
Basically, it would have to be a fairly easy to understand question for the typical voter out there. And at the same time meet the tenets of what the framers of the Constitution in 1970 expect for, to meet the technicalities of all this stuff. So it'd be a fairly straightforward question, I would think.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's move on to another topic then, and that being recreational marijuana. I think there are a couple things in here, too, about home grow, but I'm sure a lot of questions will come about of operations under influence, workforce, or just, some of the things that go with recreational.
Well, you're exactly right. There's a lot of these bills we're talking about, there's a lot of moving parts on this. The governor and the lead Democratic sponsors in both houses, Senator Heather Staines of Chicago and Representative Kelly Cassidy of Chicago, they've agreed on the outlines of a bill, but there are still some differences in just about in how much, or if any amount, you should be able to grow on your own at the house if you're an adult over 21. There's also questions on how much there should be and how you do expungement of criminal records for those who have pot violations on their criminal background. So there's some movement here. It's been interesting. A lot of law enforcement don't like the idea the idea that you could grow pot in your house.
Mm-hmm.
I think the limit was five plants per individual. Has to be in a closed room. Kids can't have access to it, so on and so forth. Law enforcement sees that as a real problem in terms of how do you actually enforce that? How do you know that somebody's got 5 plants back there? There might be another room that's got 5 more. Who knows how many? It's a real problem for them. And so one potential workaround on this might be to amend that to say persons who currently have or who will have access to medicinal marijuana for, health problems that they may have. They may end up limiting the individual growing to folks who have the legitimate need for medical marijuana. So that's one possibility. The expungement thing is really interesting too. There's a lot of back and forth on this. The new law, as it's written, as I understand it, would expunge convictions for possession of up to 500 grams of marijuana. The proposed bill allows for individuals only to possess up to 30 grams. Opponents think that's really too high, the 500 grams. They don't like the way it also circumvents the judicial system by letting the legislature actually decide whose records get cleared. Now, supporters of the bill say they chose 500 grams because companies that are licensed, in dispensaries would be producing at that amount, and they can sell it. But the individuals might still be in jail for basically selling the same amount. The expungement thing is really important for supporters of the bill because of a social justice issue, because a lot of the pot convictions, marijuana convictions, fall inordinately among minority populations in the state of Illinois, and it's a national trend too.
Hey, that's we need to come to another stop here. We can pick up that thought when we come out, and I'll have an interesting revenue type question about it. I think it's interesting. That'll be next. RFD Today.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
The Illinois economy runs on our homegrown agricultural products. Our dairy, beef, pork, corn, and soybeans grow the agricultural industry by nearly $20 billion each year. But we don't just grow Illinois, we grow North America. Canada and Mexico account for over $45 billion in U.S. agricultural exports, and they support more than 1 million American jobs. Exports to Canada and Mexico matter to everyone in the agriculture and food industries.
A message from Illinois farmers and their checkoff programs.
As you prepare for planting season, remember your neighbors. Whether you're an applicator, grower, or beekeeper, use FieldWatch to register your farm and monitor for sensitive sites around you. FieldWatch is a free, easy-to-use online mapping tool. Consulting FieldWatch is now a requirement for the over-the-top use dicamba products. Communicating with your neighbors will help you protect your farm and the environment. Don't wait. Go online to fieldwatch.com. Growing agriculture, we grow best together.
I used to say I was an Illinois Farm Bureau member because it gives us farmers a voice in Washington. Then there was a bad regulation proposed in my community. That's when I learned what my county Farm Bureau does for me right here in my own backyard. From giving scholarships to local kids to tackling township or zoning concerns, Farm Bureau starts right here. And now, that's why I say I'm a member.
Call your county Farm Bureau and rediscover your grassroots power.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Kay Shipman connects rural routes for you. For 3 decades, Kay has delivered important news. She covers everything from legislative issues to the latest in soil and water conservation. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I love covering so many aspects of agriculture and providing readers with the facts they need to make better decisions. I also get to work with farmers and meet new people along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com and Farm Week keep you connected.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
All right, welcome back to RFD Today on a Friday. I'm DeLoss Yonke, Jack Titchener, host of Illinois Lawmakers, talking about recreational marijuana and all the enforcement and the expungements. We were talking about expungements, I think, there just before the break.
Right. And that's, as I say, that's central to the premise that supporters of this bill, they feel it's very important to get this done because, as we were saying just before the break, a lot of the convictions for marijuana sales and possession fall inordinately on African American and Latino communities in the state, and they want to set that right as a matter of fairness. So that's a big part of it. Now, how you go about it is the question that I think is kind of an interesting one. A lot of the state's attorneys don't like the way that it's written into the bill to have this, the way that they go about this. But there is a workaround that was suggested by State Senator Jason Barrickman from Bloomington, Republican lawmaker there. One thing that could kind of clear the way on the whole expungement question is letting the governor use his clemency powers under the Constitution to basically figure out, how far up on the, the level of pot possession they want to go, and he could basically grant clemency, commute those sentences. We have a precedent for that. You remember back when George Ryan was coming to the end of his term as governor, there was a lot of questions about how we were imposing the death penalty in Illinois. There were a number of people who were on death row who shouldn't have even been in prison to begin with, much less on death row. So Ryan used his executive powers and basically commuted those sentences. And conceivably, he could do that as well in this case.
Well, now here's a question that I wanted to ask, or that I would like to ask. I will ask. And it's similar this is similar to a question I asked yesterday to someone who raises garlic. Okay. Garlic man goes to the farmer's market and everyone says, that's fascinating, but I don't want to pay that much for garlic. While we're doing this sort of thing about recreational marijuana, how do you set all this up without maintaining or even strengthening, in some cases, a black market? I mean, this is such a weird conversation of, if we're going to do this, let's make it worth our while, you know what I mean? But how do you get economic return out of this?
You're talking about, well, how much will it cost at the dispensary, which is licensed by the state once this is up and running, if it passes? How much are they going to tax it? How much are they going to charge you for the thing versus how much the guy on the street corner might be able to charge for it, right? Well, yeah. The main argument that the supporters are making is that you're going to know what you're getting. The recreational marijuana, like the medicinal marijuana, will be grown in dispensaries. It's going to be quality checked. You'll know how much THC is in it. You'll know that it's a pure product. Heather Staines, who's the Senate Democrat who's sponsoring the legislation, was on our show a couple of weeks ago with Dale Ryder, Republican senator from over at Mattoon. They're on opposite sides of this thing, of course. Heather's for it, and Dale has got, as a former drug prosecutor at the appellate level, he's got a lot of serious concerns with this, and a lot of what we were talking about is the back and forth between Dale and Heather on this. But the main thing seems to come down to, on the proponent side, is that, look, we had people dying from poisoned marijuana over the last couple of years. People were cutting the stuff with rat poison, so you don't know what you're getting out on the street. Whereas what's coming out of a legal dispensary
buyer beware.
much purer product.
Buyer beware. This is taking quite a turn, isn't it?
Caveat emptor, I think, is the Roman term for it. But yeah, you would know what you're getting. You'd know the amount of THC. I mean, if you're buying it in the little chocolate things, it's scored. So they'd be scored so that there would be so much per chocolate piece or gummy bear or whatever, depending on how you choose to use the stuff, I suppose.
Wow. We're not going to be able to get into all of what we want to, but when you think of marijuana and sports betting, is there a concern at all of either taking too big of a swing or an occasional swing and miss here of just about what to go through in this first term with the new administration?
Well, obviously they knocked it out of the ballpark a little earlier. All the Democrats pretty much did with respect to that. Most of the Democrats got on board with the raising the minimum wage. They wanted to show the governor that they were willing to work with him. They're willing to work with him on a number of these things. A lot of these things like sports betting, they've been percolating for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Ever since the Supreme Court ruled that it was legal to do that, other states are moving forward. Illinois, when I talk to people like Mike Zalewski, the House Democratic sponsor on this, from up at Riverside, we want to get on board with this as quickly as we can because other states are moving on it too, like Michigan and others around us are trying to get in on the act. So the quicker Illinois gets there and gets a sports betting program up and running, the more we can capitalize on that. It's complicated, though, because, you've probably covered the casino issues over the years. Yeah. Rockford wants one, Waukegan, Danville, Walker's Bluff down in my area in southern Illinois. They all want them. Chicago wants one now, and Chicago says, well, our people could be for sports betting so long as we get a casino. So now everybody,
I get you.
The whole thing gets extremely complicated.
That makes it different than, well, you got a casino in your laundromat, you might as well go there instead. But, hey, we've got another break coming up. I want to talk about the Capitol bill when we come back here on RFD today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Daniel Grant connects rural routes for you. With more than 2 decades of reporting under his belt, Dan is the go-to source for farmers when it comes to commodities. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a grain and livestock farm near Roseville in Warren County. What I love about my job is working with people, traveling across Illinois, and visiting farms along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Are you preparing for planting season? We don't mean to be a pest, but here's a few things you need to know before you grow. The Illinois Department of Agriculture now requires special local needs labels, including new restrictions for the use of herbicide dicamba on top of soybeans in Illinois for the 2019 growing season. Did you know these additional restrictions go beyond federally approved labels? Remember, the label is the law. To find out more about these Illinois-specific labels, visit ilfb.org/label-aware.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Still a little bit higher in corn. In fact, December corn keeps hanging around just shy of $4. So at least not yet in the day. No profit taking after 4 consecutive higher days, Monday through Thursday. July corn is up 4, $3.83. September up 3.5, $3.90.5. December up 2 3/4. $3.99 1/4. July soybeans, though, are down 9 cents, $8.30 3/4. And November down 9, $8.55 3/4. July wheat is up 3.5, $4.70.5. At this point, December corn has gained about 27 cents this week. We'll see if that holds today. June hogs down 17, 92 1/5. June cattle up 62 cents, 111.10. The Los Yankee RFD Radio Network. Look for Farm Week's Livestock Special Edition publishing June 17. This year's edition will feature the latest developments in livestock as well as providing an outlook for market prices and meat consumption. If you have products or services for livestock farmers, call 800-676-2353 to reserve your advertising space today. Jack Titchener joining us on RFD today. We talked about several things. We haven't got to the Capitol bill yet. So, boy, talk about your moving parts, right?
Oh, yes. This is, well, and it's about moving stuff around. Transportation, it's about building buildings. Let's talk about, I guess, breaking it down into how the lawmakers talk about it and the advocates on all sides of this. You've got the horizontal aspect of it, which is transportation. That's fixing roads and bridges, railroads, airports, mass transit, all of that. There's billions of dollars in pent-up, backed-up projects in that respect. Then you got the vertical aspect, which comes into, meaning bricks and mortar things like building, let's say, new facilities at state universities, or trying to clear the backlog of deferred maintenance on buildings there, and at community colleges and other state facilities around the state. The amount of deferred maintenance on a lot of the state's buildings is in the billions of dollars. I know that when we were talking about it last year at SIU Carbondale, I think it was $750 million. And that's because we haven't had a capital bill in 10 years. The last time was in the Quinn administration, and the time before that was, going back to George Ryan in, I believe it was 1999. And so there's a lot of pent-up anticipation on trying to get this done. Like we were talking about a little earlier, DeLoss, this is one where Democrats and Republicans see more eye to eye on this than a lot of different things at the Capitol, because all 177 House and Senate districts have infrastructure needs. And they also know on both sides of the aisle that when the bulldozers start moving and the bricks start getting stacked and everything, that those are good jobs. That creates income, goes back into the state's coffers, helps the state economy. So I think that it was interesting. I had the Senate Transportation Committee Chairman Martin Sandoval of Chicago on the program, along with their Republican spokesman in the Senate, Don DeWitt from St. Charles. They went through the proposal as it emerged a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about a $2.4 billion a year horizontal transportation proposal. It would be funded largely by increasing the state's motor fuels tax. There'd be also license and registration increases along. We can get into that too. The way they staked it out, they're pretty high. The motor fuel tax would go up 25 cents to 44 cents. Tax on special fuels would go up 30 cents a gallon. Passenger vehicle registration would go up $50 a year, and so on and so forth. There'd be $1,000 a year license registration fee for electric vehicles. Some of those, I think there was a lot of sticker shock after those figures emerged. So you might see some of those kind of ratcheted back down a bit, and other revenue streams get put on the table. I asked about, in particular, about the vertical part of it. Part of the reason we're talking about gas taxes and registration is that stuff, by constitutional amendment, has to be, those funds have to be spent on transportation projects. Lawmakers didn't want the General Assembly and others, governors, to go back in and use that tax money for general revenue funds needs. So that's kind of a lockbox for all the motor fuel stuff and registration. So at this point, I think what you're going to see is some of those increases might come down a bit, and then other things will be put on the table. One thing we haven't talked about in terms of the casino gaming stuff was, the amount of money we get off of the video poker, video gaming licenses. I think that there's an increase in there that could come. There's some talk of the recreational marijuana money being spent on that, sports betting being spent on that. There's a lot of different ways you can put these things together. It may not be as big as originally laid out, but I think it's going to happen because Republicans and Democrats both see the benefit in doing this for the reasons we just talked about.
One of the things, though, if there are a lot of ways to put it together, is one of the reasons why it takes so long to put it together, right?
Well, it is, and there has been, for various reasons, sometimes lawmakers don't trust the chief executive to spend the money the way that they think that they should. Democrats didn't trust Bruce Rauner. Republicans didn't, and some Democrats, a lot of Democrats actually didn't trust Rod Blagojevich to spend the money the way they thought they would. So that's part of what happens sometimes in the game of politics, so to say. But now I think there's a general consensus on both sides of the aisle, in the House and the Senate, that we need to get the economy moving even stronger in Illinois, and this is a proven way to do it.
By the way, we have 2.5 minutes here, and I feel like we had a very good conversation here, but in all that time that we've been talking, backlogs and pensions didn't get brought up.
Well, it's interesting because we found that we had, I think it was $1.5 billion in new revenue growth that we weren't expecting. The governor has decided that he is going to spend that on next year's pension payments. So he's not going to cut the amount of money he was going to put back into pensions. So that was welcomed by Wall Street. I think a lot of people who watch these things welcome the idea that he wasn't going to be shorting the pension funds and he still wants to stretch out the amount over time, lengthen the amount of time that we pay down that $140 billion unfunded mandate or unfunded liability. Liability is the term I should use. He still wants to use the money that the graduated income tax would generate to put toward paying down that debt over time. But it was welcome news. And you mentioned the backlog of bills. The state controller, Susana Mendoza, is being very cautious about that. She said, don't be counting on this to go to new projects or other stuff. Don't spend it, right out of the gate, because we still have somewhere around $5 billion in overdue bills from, years back when we had the budget impasse. So she's still triaging, which of the state creditors get paid first. So even though that was certainly welcome news a week or so back, we're not out of the woods yet.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, we have to scoot, sir. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Hey, same here.
Jack Titchener, host of Illinois Lawmakers in Springfield today. Normally when we catch him, he's down in southern Illinois. We'll put a bow on this program and this week in just a moment here on RFD Today. Let's check livestock markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLawes Yankee. Greenville this week, slaughter steers and heifers high choice were $2 lower, 2 to 3 lower on low choice and selects. Steers and heifers range 116 to 120, high yielding 120 to 124. Prime lots were still as high as 130. Low choice and select, though, 110 to 115. Feeder steers, 6 weights, 115 to 140, 7 weights, 100 to 120. 5-weight heifers, 135 to 145, 6 weights from 100 to 130. Illinois direct hog market Thursday held firm, $52 to $58 a hundredweight. And the sow market was also steady, 50 to 56 on lightweights, 55 to 64 on heavyweights. Heavy boars from 10 to 15 cents a pound. DeLawes Yankee, RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning, And that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
All right, welcome back. RFD today on a Friday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Sabrina Berkowitz is in studio, our senior social media specialist. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing all right. Boy, it's, again, running the gamut. Plant 19, no plant 19, looking in northern Illinois today, and even some, what looked like severe weather in Knox County, but all around, looks like opportunities for rain, so getting it up from all different kind of angles in recent days.
Yes, exactly. But I am seeing lots and lots of farmers posting on Facebook and Twitter talking about they're out doing field work, or they're going in between storms, or they're dodging it, so they're out there. Mm-hmm. And so everyone, I think, is feeling just a little bit more optimistic because of that.
Boy, I hope so. Certainly hope that there's still talk of plenty next week, and hopefully that will change as we get closer to it. There have been several cases of Illinois farmers on the national stage recently.
We haven't got to talk for a couple of weeks, but we have had so much going on with trade in particular and tariffs, and we've had our farmers, Illinois farmers, on just like every major news outlet. Right. Evan Holteen up in Bureau County. Yep. Who is their Bureau County Farm Bureau president. He was one. The state vice president, Illinois Farm Bureau president, Brian Duncan was on several. There were a couple others. I believe Kenny Hartman down in Waterloo was doing some things on behalf of Waterways Council and a lot of different representation. Yes, so it's been very, very busy around here. Certainly has. What else? What's going on? Well, it's Mental Health Awareness Month also. And we've been churning out a lot of messages about mental health awareness for farmers and for farm families. And I'm going to repeat this on the air because I think it's so important, having been touched by this personally. If you or somebody you know is in a crisis or dealing with lots of anxiety or depression or having suicidal thoughts, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. And those folks will be happy to help you. Go ahead and give that one again. That's a good one. It's 1-800-273-8255. And if you go on our Facebook page and scroll down a little bit, there's a really awesome video from Greg St. Aubin. He's a farmer from Kankakee County. Mm-hmm. And he turned the camera on himself a couple of weeks ago and shared his story about dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts and his journey through that. And it's so important and so impactful. And we never want somebody to make a permanent decision about a short-term temporary problem. Right. Well, and unfortunately, one of the things that could contribute to that is pain management, which could be a long-term thing, and the physical pain combined with some of the mental stresses. Emotional struggles. And people who have borne that, they don't want to share it. You know, this is my problem and let me deal with it, and I don't want to put this on you, so I'm putting this on. And eventually that load can be awfully heavy. So that is, I mean, that's legitimate. That's serious stuff in many professions and certainly in agriculture. Absolutely. We want you to reach out and get some help because nobody is going to win unless you do that. No, absolutely. All right. Good topic. Well, we got a tip of the week, too. Oh, please. About Snapchat. Now, I just showed you a horrifying new feature on Snapchat that everybody's talking about. Snapchat has these great little, filters to change your face, and I changed my head to a cat head a few seconds ago. Mm-hmm. But the one that's trending all over social media is the one that changes your gender. Yes, I just showed DeLoss what I looked like as a dude, and he practically screamed and shoved the phone away. I've seen it in pictures, and I've seen it in videos now, too. You can do this in video. Yeah, it's kind of horrifying. When I did it to my grandma last weekend, she goes, "I'm a good-looking man." Oh, boy.
I'm sure she is.
Well, that's trending, but community filters can be a great way to share your event or talk about your organization. And Facebook has 3 different kinds, or Snapchat has 3 different kinds. They have community filters that are free for, like, your town or your city or a public park. They also have 2 types of on-demand filters. A personal one, DeLoss, that you could create just for your birthday, a DeLoss birthday filter.
How about that?
And then the filters for businesses that Illinois Farm Bureau creates for special events. And they're very cost-effective. They can be as little as $5. So.
What about a half birthday? I'm closer to a half birthday.
You can do a half birthday filter, and I'll Snapchat it.
Can we filter actual ears of corn or actual corn plants in fields? Can we do that?
Well, we could take a picture of one and apply a filter to it, or we could create like a filter overlay for it.
Instead of a field full of standing water?
Yeah.
We could show something productive instead?
Yeah.
As long as we don't fool folks in Chicago or at Ag Statistics to think that we're farther along than we are. But
exactly.
It's just remarkable how, and it's almost to the point now where when the phone rings, you're like, well, what in the world is this? The fact that we even still call them phones is interesting.
Yeah, so some of these neat things that you're seeing on Snapchat, this is an example of how artificial intelligence is making its way into our world. And we're using it, and we like it, because it's fun to change my head into a cat's head, and it's fun to put a beard on my grandma on. We can't get enough of this. And
if you can't do it in real life.
Yeah, so this is just one funny way that artificial intelligence is becoming part of what we do now.
We had a couple of favorites, by the way. I haven't talked about this on the air. Passed away this week.
Oh, gosh.
Doris Day.
97. I love her so much.
Elegant, graceful.
I know.
Just tremendous. And then Tim Conway.
Yes, that was sad, too.
If not the funniest, certainly one of the funniest, both with Harvey Korman and also with Don Knotts, those Apple Dumpling Game movies.
And the famous architect, I.M. Pei, passed away.
Is that right?
At 102.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No, I know. I am familiar with some of his work, in fact. Yeah. So he built the first enclosed, became the shopping mall. He was the architect of the first one,
and the cool glass triangle over the Louvre in Paris.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
It's Sabrina Berkowitz. I'm DeLoss Yankee saying watch your